So video 2 on this midterm review, starting with number 10. The negative 201.6. So at this point, I now have an equation that's simplified. There is no distributive property anymore. There's no combining like terms. I need to start getting n by itself. But before I start getting n by itself, you might want to move this over one spot, or you could even use the calculator. It's totally up to you guys. You could deal with the decimal using the calculator, or you could move it over by multiplying everything by 10. So if you wanted to move it over, go ahead and move it over by multiplying by 10, and this will become negative 2016. This will become, if you move it one over this way, it'll become negative 450. And this 72 will become 720 if you wanted to. But if not, you could just use your calculator, and let's start getting n by itself. So I'm going to get rid of this 72 by subtracting 72. And what I do to one side, I do to the other, subtract 72. And with the calculator, you'll get negative 273.6. And of course, we're going to bring down the equal sign, bring down the negative 45n. And we still need to get the n by itself. So my final step would be to divide by negative 45 and divide by negative 45. This cancels, and n will equal, again with the calculator, we get 6.08. 6.08. Let's move on to number 11. So don't be afraid of decimals, especially because calculators do all the hard work for you with decimals. Now fractions, I think fractions are pretty easy. You could get rid of all fractions by multiplying everything by the LCD, the lowest common denominator of all your fractions. So what's the lowest common denominator of all our fractions here? 2. So let's go ahead and multiply everything by 2. Now I don't have to multiply everything by 2 first. I could add 5 and add 5 to get rid of the 5 and make it a little smaller. But I know so many of us like to get rid of fractions right off the bat. That's what I'm going to do here. I want to multiply by 2. Multiply by 2, multiply by 2, and multiply by 2. So on this first term, 2 over 2 cancels. I'm going to have a negative 1w left over. Or you could just put negative w. You could write the 1 if you want. And then we have a minus 2 times 5 is 10. And then we have equals 2 times 6 is 12. And then over here, the 2's cancel. You're going to have plus 1w. So now I have no more fractions. Now I could worry about getting the w by itself on one side. But then you realize there's w's on both sides. So you need to get rid of one of them. Do you want to get rid of the negative w or the positive w? Okay, you want to move it to the right? Okay, so let's move that negative 1w. Let's get rid of it by doing the opposite, plus 1w. That'll be 0. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side, plus 1w. We're going to have a new equation in blue right here. Negative 10 equals 12 plus 2w. 1w plus another w, that's a total of 2 w's. Now let's get the w by itself on the right side, which is over here, of the equal sign. So I need to get rid of what first, the 2 or the 12? That's right, the 12. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. So you're going to bring down 2w, bring down the equal sign. Over here you get negative 22. If you owe 10 and you owe 12, you're going to owe a total of $22. Final step would be to get rid of the multiplication of 2 by dividing by 2 and dividing by 2. So we get our final answer, w equals negative 11. W equals negative 11. That's the answer number 11. Let's move on to number 12. Number 12. So we have, we could get rid of the fraction right from the start. We could actually distribute the fraction. It's just rewriting it. And then we could get rid of the fraction afterwards. It's totally up to you guys. I'm going to distribute the negative half. So negative half times g, that's just negative 1/2 g. Distribute negative half times 1, that's negative half. Bring down the equal sign, the 6, and let's not forget about the 3 that's out here. I'm going to bring that down as well, 3 right in front. Let me rewrite that. There you go, it's a little bit better looking right there. So now I'm going to multiply everything by the denominator 2 to get rid of the fractions. So if I multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply everything by 2, right? We're going to end up with 6 minus, the 2's cancel, you have a 1g. The 2's cancel, you have a -1. 6 times 2 is 12. So there's our new equation. And you could actually combine like terms on the left side. We have the 6 minus 1. What's 6 minus 1? 5. So what we're going to do is rewrite this thing up here on the side. I want to have the negative 1g that I have right here, negative 1g, and the 6 minus 1 is going to be 5. So I'm going to put plus 5 and then equals 12. So there's my new equation in blue. I need to solve it. What do I do next? Subtract 5 on both sides. Thank you for answering right there. We're going to have negative 1g equals 7. Final step. Divide by negative 1. G equals negative 7. Moving on to number 13. Solve the proportion. What do we do?
Cross multiply. Sauce.
So, let's cross multiply. 7 times 32. I don't know what that is. Equals 8 times c. 8c. 7 times 32 is 224? 224 equals 8c. Of course, you guys have calculators, so no, I'm saying on the quiz, or on the midterm, you're gonna have a calculator, so don't worry about it. 224 divided by 8, 28. That's what C is. C equals 28. Let the calculator do the work for you. And then number 14, evaluate the expression. Again, this one's not an equation. All you have to do is evaluate the expression. And how do we do number 14? What do we use? So Pemdas is what we're going to do, the correct order of operations. So the first thing on Pemdas is that P, which means that we need to zoom in and do whatever we can inside parentheses. So inside parentheses, we have 12 take away 2 squared. So we have a minus and we have an exponent. We're going to do exponents first. So I'm going to do 2 squared first. 2 squared is 4. So let me rewrite this thing. Parenthesis 12 take away 4, close parenthesis. And we could still work on the inside of those parentheses. So 12 take away 4 is 8. So what I want to do is rewrite everything so I don't get confused. So I'm going to bring down the 3 that's way in the front, the plus 3, and then parenthesis, and I'm going to put an 8 right here, and then bring down the plus 6. Once again, I just took this 3, brought it down, the plus, the 3, and inside we have an 8, and bring down the plus 6 at the end. So what I've done is simplified everything inside the parentheses, got 8, and now I have addition, multiplication, and addition. So obviously we're going to be multiplying before adding. So that's what we're doing next. We're going to multiply. So 3 times 8, or positive 3 times positive 8, that's positive 24. Bring down the 3, bring down the 6. We end up with 27 plus 6. Final answer is 33. Let's move on. Number 15. Like I said, you're going to have to copy these down in your notebook. You don't have any space to do them. So you should be copying these down as we go in your notebook. Number 15, right here, we're going to cross multiply. 35 times 13, and then W times 5. So let's set it up. And when we do 35 times 13 on a calculator, we get 455. So we're going to have 455 equals 5 times W, or 5W. So we need to get rid of that 5W or the 5 in front of the W by dividing by 5, because after all, it did say 5 times W. We get rid of the multiplication of 5 by dividing by 5. Now what you do to one side, you do to the other side. And when you do 455 on the calculator divided by 5, you get 91. So 91 is your answer for W. W equals 91. That's it. Let's jump to number 16. So the instructions on 16 and 17 is to solve for the specified variable. So they give you an equation with many variables and they tell you to solve for D. So what we want is D. So where's D at? It is right here. D is right here. It's definitely not by itself. There's an F in front of it. There's a plus 2H, and so we need to get rid of everything and isolate D. So it's kind of like this. I mean, it would be a lot easier if it looked like this. I mean, right? Wouldn't this be less confusing? Instead of DF, it was D times 2. Instead of plus 2H, it's plus 23, right? And the equals 8, there it is. So this is a lot easier to understand. What would you do first right here? What would you do first right here to start getting D by itself? You would subtract 23, right? So let's think about that first step here, and let's go over here. What would be your first step right here? Subtract what? 2H, right? So here's D. That's like the movie star. F is the movie star's buddy. 2H is a loner, the bum at the corner. You don't care about this guy, right? So let's get rid of the 2H first. So normally on this simple one, you would subtract 23 and subtract 23. I just made this up so you could see how we would get started. Instead of subtracting 23, you would subtract 2H and subtract 2H. So let me erase that or scratch that out. Now, what do we have left? We have a DF, which is really D times F. 2H take away 2H is 0. We have an equal sign. Now, 8 take away 2H. You cannot do that, so you're just going to rewrite it. So let's go 8 take away 2H. You're just rewriting it. So for my final step, again, I need to go back and remind myself, what am I solving for? I'm solving for D. Here's D. There's a times F. I don't want the times F. How do I get rid of the times F? That's right. Divide by F. So, and what you do to one side, you do to the other side. So right here, the F's do cancel. We have D all by itself. And the right side looks ugly, but who cares? That's your answer. You have 8 minus 2H divided by F. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your answer. So let's jump to number 17 here. Again, they want us to solve for A. So A is the movie star. Which one's the bum at the corner? 9C. So that's what we want to get rid of first. Remember, A is the movie star. -6 and B are both the movie star's buddy. There's a multiplication between the -6 and the A. There's a multiplication between the A and the B. So let's get rid of this guy. And how do we get rid of a -9C? Add 9C. That'll cancel it out. What I do to one side, I do to the other side, plus 9C. Now, the question is, could I add 9D plus 9C? Right? If I have 9 donkeys and I get 9 chickens, I have 18 Dickens? No, it doesn't work, right? So you have to actually just rewrite it. So what do we have left? We have -6AB equals 9D plus 9C. You can't add it, so you just rewrite it. Now, for my final step, to get A by itself, here's A. I don't want this and I don't want this. So I'm going to cancel both of them out, but I need to think what's actually happening between the -6 and the A. There's multiplication. What's actually happening between the A and the B? There's multiplication. So to get rid of both multiplications at the same time, I'm going to divide by the same -6 and the same B. So in reality, I'm dividing by -6B. And what I do to one side, I do to the other side, negative 6b. Do we understand that? You see, between the negative 6 and the a, there's multiplication. That's why I do division here. Between the a and the b, there's multiplication. That's why I do division there. So now that I'm dividing by 6b, the negative 6 and the negative 6 cancel, the b and the b cancel, and the a is the only thing left, and that's what I wanted to solve for. Now over here on this side, there's really not much else I could do. I mean, there is actually something I could do, but that's my answer, guys. My answer is 9d plus 9c divided by negative 6b. That's the answer on the back of your worksheet. On certain multiple choice tests, you might be able to rewrite this answer. Like for example, this is a 9, that's a 9, and this is a 6. So you could reduce everything by 3. So you could write it as 3d plus 3c over negative 2b. You could if you wanted to. And some multiple choice answers will change it. But since the test generator left the answer like this, I'm assuming that the answer will be left like that on the test Thursday.